ST 3.12 Nivarana Sangarava Sutta, the discourse to Sangarava on the mental hindrances. So this teaching is specially given by the Buddha to a Brahmin by the name of Sangarava on a specific topic, the 5 mental hindrances, those things that hinder, that prevent us from focusing our mind. And the reference is S46.65. Okay? So remember, when you start reading the sutta from this series, always turn to the title page and then look at the top right hand corner. Alright? So that's called something like the information, sutta information, if you like. Okay? So it tells you first it gives you the title, and then the translation, and then the reference number. So remember the sutta by name or by reference number. A lot of when I was a very young Buddhist, I was very curious about the suttas, and of course you want to know where the sutta came from, how to locate them, right? So it is very difficult those days, because no one I met those days actually know how to locate all these things, although the system is in use in the West. Okay, so over decades, I learned how to what's called referencing. The sutta, there's a number, and then you locate it. So that helps. The interesting thing is, I discovered. Facebook is really very informative. You know how to use it wisely. Imagine you have this ability to connect with anywhere in the world. Instead of making a fool of yourself, talking silly things, scolding and fighting each other, you can use it to make friends and more importantly, share the Dharma. And you can learn a lot about what's going on. For someone like me who has decades of background Buddhism, it's very revealing to me. Good things as well as difficult things. For example, I discovered there are many good Buddhists in Sri Lanka, but they do not know how to refer to the sutta. Not many of them know that. They will quote some suttas, and sometimes they will give it the whole Pali chunk, and then you ask them, where does this come from? And they will say, oh, this teacher told me. And that's very difficult. You can't quote the teacher, see? You can quote him, but he's not the final authentic source, you say. You can't use it in your teaching. If you write a paper, if you translate suttas, you need proper referencing so that it's a valid document. It will last after you, into the future generations, and scholars in the future also will find it valid and authentic and useful. So this is the discipline we need to keep to protect the Buddha's teaching in modern times. So referencing, knowing the number reference, very important. Knowing the title helps, yes, but knowing the number locates the sutta where it is found exactly. In fact, nowadays the system is very easy, just a few numbers. The old style is more complicated. You look at the top of page 35. This is the Burmese style, or the traditional South Asia and Southeast Asian style. Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos. You have 4 numbers, sometimes 5. And then first they tell you it is in the Samyutta. Can you look at right at the top line, okay? And then 5, that means chapter 5, which is called Mahavaga, the great chapter. And it is like part 2 of the great chapter, Mahavaga 2, which is called Bojjhanga Samyutta. Okay, Samyutta is connected teachings on the Bojjhanga, on the awakening factors. Chapter 6 or section 6, which is called Sakacca Vagga. So they keep on dividing it's like a piece of big cake. They gone cutting like that. And finally you have 5, that means Sutta 5. Alright, so this is the old style. Quite a lot of things to remember. So the great thing about Western scholarship is they simplify all this, they shorten it. Because when you shorten it, you're able to remember better. Now this is the problem with language too, In many ways, our language either hinders us or shape our mind in such a way we know certain things but we miss certain things, right? So in many ways, if you look at the Chinese language, it's picture form, it's very rich, it's very difficult to learn. But because of the nature of the Chinese language, it's a picture, and you have to remember that picture, okay? You cannot join the picture to like the alphabets. Not so easy, because that pictograph, the character, is in itself a word already. So this is what is called the pictographic language, if you like, okay, Chinese. Then you have the agglutinative language, as English using alphabets. The agglutinative means stick together. They stick letters together. You got this letter, all right? A letter usually doesn't have any meaning, except letter A, maybe, you say right? You got to put all these letters together and then you get words. And then you can form many words different ways. And then you can join words to make more words and so on, all right? So English is like Lego pieces. You can put them together and you can form all kinds of shapes if you like. But Chinese is not like Lego pieces at all. It's like already one big chunk of art, So, but the Chinese are very good in remembering things, very good in counting, but not in philosophy. You find China has never produced world-class philosophers like Socrates, Plato, and so on. What we recognize as philosophers are mostly social ethicists like Confucius. They come up with rules of to behave to support the social system. And Lao Tzu, on the other hand, tried to be different. So he went way out, so you have something else there. It's almost like an antisocial kind of thing. So they are extremes. Whereas in the Western language, the alphabet system, you find is very flexible, very facile. You can put together and you can think in a very flexible way. The Indians have a particular language, Sanskrit. In fact, Sanskrit belongs to what's called the Indo-European family of languages. So you got the Indo-European, you got Sanskrit, Pali, the modern Indian languages, and you got the Western European languages. Almost all the Western European languages, including English, except Hungarian. This is the funny thing, Hungarian belongs to the Chinese root. This is something mysterious. We've got to find out more about it. So that kind of language, the Western language, allows this to think in a very fluid way. Okay? So this helps us to understand. And when we read Pali, you find it's a very rich language. And when he went to China, you can imagine the difficulty the translators had. And the fact that Buddhism went to China and the suttas were translated into Chinese was a great contribution to Chinese culture. Not to say literature, Chinese culture itself. Chinese language grew by the hundreds of thousands of new words and ideas and concepts. And remember, Buddhism is the only barbarian religion that got accepted into Chinese culture. They did not accept any other religion. That's another amazing contribution. But there's a cost to it. Buddhism also became Chinese. So that's the later development. But underneath all that layer of Chineseness, you can still, if you look, discover the Buddha's teaching. All right? And this is what many of the very intelligent, faithful, modern Buddhists who are Chinese-based, it's what they're doing. They're trying to go back to the roots. What did the Buddha really teach? And here you are, we have this sutta, where we are very fortunate to have this sutta before us. All right? And this sutta, why are these suttas important? Because they talk about the mind directly. The Buddha is telling us from his own experience how the mind works. What prevents us from developing our mind? More important than culture is our mind. If your mind is great, you will contribute to a great culture also. So the purpose of Buddhism, you can say, is to understand your mind. That's one way of looking at it. And here is a sutta that teaches us just that. So if you look at the third line, it says that theme, calm and clear mind through clearing emotional blocks. So there are emotional blocks. There are 5 emotional blocks, which we'll look at in a while. No? So we'll find out now, what are the 5 emotional blocks? You know, there's Western psychologists that love this kind of document because it makes their discipline, their psychology richer. You know, this Western psychology, they started more or less with people like Sigmund Freud and Jung and so on. But they were basically groping. There were still not many things that were not certain, a lot of guesswork. And there was a time when psychology scholars couldn't decide whether psychology is actually an art or a science. Is it an art subject or a science, you know? Because how do I know what you're thinking? How can I measure thought? You can't measure thought, so it's not a science. Science means measurement, okay? But now they can do that, okay? But then once you start measuring things, you have a problem. Because in quantum physics, they say the observer affects what is observed. So that's the problem again. They're very Buddhistic. Yeah? So in Buddhism, when you observe something, you try not to affect it, so to speak. You just see it as it is. So we are very close to the quantum physics, if you like, that way. You know? So let's look at this sutta, page 37, Nivarana. Nivarana means hindrance, something that covers. Varana means to cover. Ni is a kind of a prefix meaning down, downwards. So it holds you down. Sangarava is the name of the person. Sutta is a thread of teaching. The discourse to Sangarava on the mental hindrances. S 46.55. At one time, the Brahmin Sangarava approached the Blessed One, exchanged greetings, and then sat down at one side. You notice something interesting here. Start with number 2, right? So you may be wondering what's 1. 1 is Ewang Me Sutta. Okay? You don't see it there, but it's understood. Okay? So here you have this Brahmin, he comes along, sees the Buddha, and asks the Buddha questions. Now, Buddhism could arise in those years, in those centuries, for the simple reason people had a lot of time. Oh, people were very busy in Buddha's time, yes. It was a very developed period, okay? But in Singapore, we are even more busy, that we don't really have time for almost anything, except make money, all right? So now that you are here, it's itself a big miracle. You're able to sit quietly here, you come here for yourself. It's possible, you know. It's a matter of planning your time, priorities, and so on. Some people, they wait until it's too late, until it's very difficult. You know, in my life of teaching Dhamma, occasionally I get people who come because doctors told them they only got a few more weeks to live, a few more months to live. And then they come for sutta class. It's very difficult to teach such people. You have to give them a separate class. You know, because sometimes in the class you say, you know, we are going to die, right? This person says, I know I'm going to die. How do I prevent it, you know, and so on. So if you come too late, it can be quite difficult, you know. You might even become really scared when you listen to the teachings on impermanence, you know. But when you're here now, you build yourself up. You strengthen yourself. I mean, it's like we are very old and very sick. We want to go into the kung fu and martial arts class. You know, you can't train yourself to defend the country anymore. You got to start young, when you're healthy at least. Okay, so this is the right time to start. So, in the Buddha's time, they had that time, and people were really, they were very prosperous, many of them, and so they get all this money and all this wealth, all this comfort. Then they ask themselves, is that all? What's the meaning of life, right? So you have this Sangarava often coming to the Buddha asking a lot of questions, and the Buddha is always ready to answer. Very rarely he will say, I'm busy now, you know, and so on. Even then, when you insist, he will answer. after 3 times. Okay, so that's the Buddha, right? So he asked the Buddha, Master Gautama. Okay, this is a little piece of paper. I'm reading that one that you stuck there. Master Gautama, what is the cause? What is the reason that sometimes even mantras that have been recited over a long time do not come to mind, let alone those that have not been recited? In simple words, the question Sangarawa asks is, how is it that I've recited this mantra? These are, like holy words, like Itipiso Bhagavadis, for example, I have chanted these suttas, if you like, for many years, but I can't remember them. Okay? Of course, if I don't recite them, it's worse. Right? So how come I can't remember them, right? Now, Master Gautama, what is the cause? What is the reason that sometimes even mantras that have not been recited over a long time come to mind, let alone those that have been recited? On the other hand, some mantras you didn't recite very long, but it just comes to mind, right? So if you recite it, it's even easier to remember. How is that so? In other words, here Sangha was asking, how can we forget things? How can we remember things? That's the general question. So this is an interesting sutta on improving memory also, if you look at it different ways. So you can look at suttas different ways, all right? Oh, that's a more worldly benefit, if you like. Okay, so now the Buddha answers. So you see the value of such a sutta. There is psychological value here, emotional value. So notice what's interesting here. Section 4, the opening quote, right? So the opening quote starts here. Now the question is, where does it end? Now you can turn the pages. I think as you find that this one goes on and on until where? Before did you notice? No, page 40. No. Okay, Brahmin. Okay, so the Brahmin didn't cut in any time. Now, sometimes the Brahmin will cut in, the Buddha will ask, and he will say yes or no. But in this case, he didn't. Right? So the Buddha went on talking like a lecture, right? And right to near the end, isn't it? Page 44. So this is where one of the things you can do is always look at this open quote. Where's the close quote? But some translators like Bhikkhu Bodhi, they'll put the open quote in front of every new paragraph. But then there's no close quote. That means you got to look for the close quote towards the end. Usually it's right at the end. But sometimes, like in this case, the Brahmin will say sadhu, so it ends before that. Right? So that's the Buddha word. Okay? Although we say the Tipitaka, the suttas are Buddha word, sometimes it is not. For example, Mara is talking, So we won't say that's Buddha word anyway. But on the other hand, it is in the context of Buddha word, yes. Right? So you have a numbering here. The Buddha is going to talk about 5 things, remember? Once you talk about mental hindrances, there are 5 of them. So you can see 1, sensual lust, 2, ill will, right? 2 next page. And then 3 is on page 39, sloth and torpor. 4 is restlessness and worry. 5, doubt. So these are the 5 mental hindrances. These are the summary, if you like. Of course, there are notes in front you can read later on. My advice is, if you always have time before you sleep. You see, just put it beside your bed. Maybe tell us, okay, I'm going to read 1 page or half a page, and you fall asleep reading it. It's very good, fall asleep with Dhamma. So you find your dream quality also goes up. And you remember the last thing that you read. That's all right? Okay, so now the Buddha starts his teaching, section 4. Brahmin. When one dwells with a mind seized by sensual lust, overcome by sensual lust, then one understands not, as it really is, the escape from it. Let's look at this sentence first, all right? What is sensual lust? Sensual, the word sensual is there, all right? Lust is desire. Lust is the mind looking for something. Why do we look for something? Because we think it's not there. So we have this idea of a lack. We think that we don't have this or that. How do we get this idea we don't have this or that? Someone told us. We have learned it from somewhere. You know? Oh yeah, maybe we sensed it, but according to Buddhism, it came from somewhere. Maybe past life experience. Now, parents who raise their children and sing songs, silly songs like no money, no talk. You hear some Chinese parents like, since little babies, they teach them these things. So imagine this little child grows up thinking of nothing but money. That means the child has this idea, I don't have money, so I must always make money. So his whole life will be nothing but doing that. How do you expect a marriage to be happy that way? How do you expect people to really love and to think deeply, to create beautiful things when they think that way? They just think, they can't feel, you see. So that's where when the mind thinks it lacks something, it's just a thought, then you want it. So there is another teaching called mana, conceit. Conceit arises from comparing ourselves with others. In Singapore, we have a really nasty habit. When I first came to Singapore, this lawyer comes to me and asks, how many room flats do you stay in? I was so naive at that time. I said, oh, it's a nice guy, So I said, 3 room. At the time, it was just 3 room. After he stopped talking to me. He still stopped talking to me. Anyway, 3 room flat, forget it. Hey, I got 4 room now, So you can imagine the kind of mentality you have. Now, this is going to last for a whole generation, So we have to wait. But while waiting, we've got to train ourselves to free from this kind of ideas. It's only a little bit of the problem. There are other serious problems that we've got to correct. So this sense of lack makes us look for things outside of ourselves. That's basically how lust works. We want to grasp things. Once we grasp it, we cling to it. We don't want to let go. Okay, that's how it works. So the mind thinks about it. But sensual lust means the mind looks for things through the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body. We see things beautiful, say, oh, I like this. I like this teacher, very handsome. I don't like this teacher. Can't understand what he's talking. Or some people say, oh, I like this teacher. Oh, his teaching is very deep. I don't understand anything, So the 2 ways people react, okay? Sensual lust. People hear something, oh, I like this teacher, very nice voice. Or I go to temple just to listen to Buddhist songs, Smell, some people like what jaw smell, and so on. And then taste. You go to temple, got nice food to eat. I used to do that as a kid. We go to this Mahayana temple, we got very nice free vegetarian food. So we go there, we said, Sifu, can we help around the temple? The real aim is we're waiting for the food. Just do a bit of cleaning here and there. So food, right? Taste, no? So there your eye, ear, nose, tongue, then body is feeling, okay? Comfort. Here, of course, we want to feel. We would like to go big temples, nice, comfortable place. If the aircon, even better, and so on. So this is how, basically, our sensual desire works. So imagine if you allow this kind of sensual desire to control your life, you can meditate. Got all this, your mind's going in 6 directions, right? The 6 senses. No? So that's a basic meaning here. But there's something else the Buddha says here. He says, one neither understands nor sees as it really is. one's own benefits. So you don't know what really is good for you. Why? Because you've been listening to others. Other people are telling you, hey, I got 5-room flat, or you also want. You say, oh, we got to upgrade, Like, why must you upgrade? Because your friend got more rooms. It's silly, isn't it? So this is where I have people, in translation work, they tell me, oh, you shouldn't use this word, you shouldn't use that word. Why? Because some other religion is using it. I say, if you do that, then you're defining yourself by other religion. We define the words we use. We don't have to allow other people to define our lives. We think for ourselves. What do I need? I'm happy the way I am, right? It's just like there was this very interesting, funny story. I think it's a real story. These people in the islands of the Pacific, they're very happy living among themselves. Even the women never wore anything on the top. It's very natural to them, okay? They never see it as the way we see it, put it that way. Here comes this Western missionary. Say, oh my goodness, this is terrible, these Victorian missionaries, So they start telling all these islanders, say, this is terrible, you don't do this, it's sin, And so he went on, sin, right? And then finally one very clever islander went up to this preacher and said, Padre, before you came, we all never sinned, But after you came, we start sinning. That's a clever one, okay. Anyway, so there you are. Sometimes we put wrong ideas into our heads and that causes a lot of problems. Okay? Alright, so we do not know real benefit for ourselves when there is sensual lust, right? When we are taken over by this desire, we really forget what's good for us. Number 2, one neither understands nor sees as it really is others' benefit. What's really good for others, we also don't know that. We are lost. Because we don't understand the nature of self and other anymore, this connection. One neither understands nor sees as it really is the benefit of both. So in other words, here you can say wider society, including nature. Notice here the Pali, the sutta uses neither understands nor sees. So in other words, here we see, that means it is something evident before us, and also we understand in our own minds, 2 ways. Knows and sometimes we say knows and sees. So too, the mantras that have been recited over a long time do not come to mind. Cannot remember because we are not paying attention when we recite the mantra, right? So in study the sutta, you have to stay focused. You have to be very calm, and then say, "Oh, now I understand it." There are other things. For example, sometimes when you don't understand it right away, then as you reflect, it comes to you. So reflection is to turn over the teaching in your mind. That's how wisdom grows. Sometimes you reflect, nothing happens, and you look around with the Dhamma eye, so to speak, and you see something. You see a falling leaf, the leaf falls. Oh, I got it. Now this is what the sutta is trying to say, right? Because whatever the Buddha teaches is all around you. As Achancha says, everything is teaching you, right? So you look around, something will help you to connect the teachings. This is the meaning of really seeing. Okay. So here you are. The Buddha said we forget because our mind is going out there, looking for things. That's sensual lust. 4.2. Now the Buddha gives an example. It says, Brahmin, just as when a person with good sight, looking for the reflection of his own face in the bowl of water. I think they had no mirrors those days, so you use the surface of water. But this surface of water is mixed with lac or turmeric or blue coloring or crimson coloring. Right? So these are different colors. They know those. So turmeric is yellow. Lac, I think, is like a brown color, I'm not mistaken. Anyway, you can read in front, there's a footnote there, just follow the footnote. So this water is not plain water, but it's full of, once the color, you can't see the reflection clearly. So with this kind of color in the water, you would neither know nor see it as it really is, right? So you can't see your face in the water. Even so, Brahmin, when one dwells with a mind seized by sensual desire, overcome by sensual desire, then one understands not as it really is the escape from it. So once you're caught up with it, you don't know how to get out of it. That's why we have to learn the Dhamma, practice it. You don't have to let go of this kind of craving or this kind of sensual lust. So because we are caught up in sensual lust, we don't know what's good for us, what's good for others, or what's good for everyone. So in this way, we cannot remember what we have learned. All these mantras we have recited, we can't remember. And those that we have not recited these words, we don't even know what they are. So that's how we forget things. Our mind goes astray and get caught with something of the eye, ear, nose, tongue, or body. Or another thought, like for example, as I'm talking here, you're thinking, oh, what shall I eat afterwards, and so on. So my voice goes to the background, and you don't hear me, my mouth is moving, but you don't hear anything. you only see this craving called food or something like that. Okay, that's an example. Okay, so paying attention here and now. So that's another way of looking at Buddhism. Buddhism is about attention span, if you like. Very simple teaching. Wow, this! If you tell this to the educationists, they love this. In fact, nowadays I hear, the school next door, almost every day they get the children assembled. They say, okay, something like, now listen carefully. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think they're doing counting meditation. So they're teaching the kids to calm themselves down, to focus, and that's good if you start young. Okay, that's a good start. Okay, so that's the first one. Sensual desire. Right. So notice, if you understand the first one, make sure you understand very carefully. Then the pattern repeats for the rest. The other 4, the change is only in the key idea, the hindrance. Right. But remember, repetition helps you to remember. So the sutta is structured in such a way. It is a aide-mémoire, as we say. It's a French word, which is used in English. It means a memory aid. Okay, the more you recite, the better you remember. Next, section big, number 2, ill will. A kind of, if you like, anger, hatred. You notice this is the opposite of the first hindrance. First hindrance, such a desire. The opposite is ill will. In fact, the next pair also like that, the opposites. Then you have the last one is doubt. So it's quite easy to remember in that way. Such a desire, opposite of such a desire, ill will. Okay? And then next pair is sloth and torpor, so very tired, sleepy. And you have restlessness and worry, the opposite of it. Okay? So the opposites, no? And then you have, with all this happening, you go back and forth, there's doubt. Okay? Alright, let's go back to brackets 2, section 5. Furthermore, Brahmin, when one dwells with a mind seized by ill will, vyapada, ill will, overcome by ill will, then one understands not, as it really is, the escape from it. Right? So when you're very angry, you are lost in it. You don't know how to get out of it. Unless you look at the first noble truth. This is ill will. This is anger. That's why in meditation we say anger, like that. You note it. Right? Once you note it, you see it as it is. And then you can, since you can notice your enemy, you can let it go. The Buddha continues and says, if your mind is caught up with ill will, with hate, anger, then you don't know what is good for yourself, you don't know what is good for others, you don't know what is good for everyone, for society, and so on. Right? So this opposite of these 3 is what is good for yourself, good for others, good for everyone. These are called the 3 points of purity. Right? Remember when we studied about the precepts? some time ago? Yeah, in the Rahula series. No? How do we know an action is good? You ask yourself, when I do this action, is it good for me, good for others, good for everyone? So these are the 3 points of purity. No? So if we are caught up with this ill will, then all that we find difficult remembering things. And what we have tried to remember, we forget. Okay, we forget because the other thoughts are very powerful. They push away what is important in our life. Okay, then next section, as usual, the Buddha gives the analogy, the metaphor, imagery, picture form. Remember, the Buddha is giving a talk, so he gives very colorful, what they call comparisons. 5.2, Brahmin, just as a person with good sight. So the Buddha is very careful with language. He says someone can see well. Okay? Looking for the reflection of his own face in a bowl of water, but this time the water is heated up by a fire and it keeps boiling with hot water. So the water is bubbling. So when the water is bubbling, you cannot see yourself. There's no image there, right? So this is another example. So notice in the first case, sensual desire, the Buddha uses the comparison of color in water. This is not accidental, because the word raga, notice the word as kama raga, right? Raga by itself means lust, okay? Now raga comes from the verb, you can go back to almost come to the root raj, meaning to dye, D-Y-E. So rajati is the verb, to dye something, that means to put it in and you get new color, right? Rajati means to dye, that means to be colored. And color here also refers to lust. So rajati, you are colored, we will attract to colors when we have lust, right? We say nice rose lips, beautiful eyes, blue eyes, whatever, right? And so on. So we have all this, we are caught up with colors. So that's rajati. So the Buddha uses colors. When colors in the water gets colored up. You don't see yourself. Yourself is your true understanding of yourself. Whereas in the second hindrance, which is ill will, the Buddha also uses the analogy of water, but this time the water is boiling. There's no color in the water, but it's boiling. And anger is like fire. Notice, so it's boiling. So we say it's boiling with anger, right? Here, there you are. You have this sutta saying that. So when this happens, when we are boiling with anger, we don't know what's good for us. We don't know what's good for others, and what's good for everyone else. So obviously our mind will be lost. So we can remember all the good things we have learned. Right? So it's very clear. No? Now we come to the next pair. Number 3. Section 6. Furthermore, Brahmin, when one dwells with a mind seized by sloth and torpor, overcome by sloth and torpor, then one understands not, as it really is the escape from it. When you're caught up with it, you don't know how to get out of it. Sloth, there are different ways of interpreting this. One simple way is we can say that sloth is a kind of sleepiness, tiredness. Torpor is that of the body, if you like. No? So, apparently in the old text, it was originally one word. It means sloth becoming stronger. Okay, that's another way of interpreting it. So, in other words, body and mind get sleepy and tired. This can happen sometimes when we meditate also. Now, compassionate teachers will tell you, oh, don't worry, in the beginning when you feel tired and sleepy, it's okay to fall asleep. And when you come out, then you continue your practice because people are tired need rest, right? So you start naturally in that way. You don't punish yourself, all right? So here, what analogy, metaphor does the Buddha use? Look at 8.2. 6.2, sorry. Brahmin, just as a person with good sight, looking for the reflection of his own face in a bowl of water, overgrown with sebal and water plants. Okay, sebal is a kind of a little leaves floating on the water. All right. Some of these plant names are very difficult to translate because we don't have those plants here. All right. And this is one of the problems in China. Xuan Zhang and other translators, they list a few things. For example, the 5 things that cannot be translated. So you got to use sound to translate it. All right. So this is one of those words. So I used the Indian, simplified Indian sound, seva. Okay, I tried to see what local Indian names, modern names they have. So seva is one of them. Basically, this water is covered up with plants, so you can see, right? So here it was like these plants, water plants coming up. Notice Buddha, slow and topper, all these plants cover up all these things. Notice the Buddha is using a unified imagery here of water, right? And so you can kind of link up the emotion with the what is used, what covers up or prevents the water from reflecting your image. So you can see it's a very beautiful imagery here. Seeing your reflection in the water means you can see yourself. In meditation, you can see yourself, so to speak. So when this happens, when the water is covered up with all these water plants, you cannot see your reflection, your true self, so to speak, your inner self. So you don't know what's good for you, good for others, or good for everyone else, or society. So that is sloth and torpor. Number 4 is restlessness and worry. Now notice, restlessness and worry is just the opposite. Alright? Now, sloth and torpor in meditation we sometimes call fishing. You know why fishing? Because you go down like that. Okay, so you're fishing. And then restlessness and worry is like dancing. You become restless. Okay? Notice that there's the word worry there also. Yeah? Let us read, now explain a bit more. 7. Furthermore, Brahmins, when one dwells with a mind seized by restlessness and worry, uddacha kukucha, overcome by restlessness and worry, then one understands not as it really is according to reality, the escape from it, how really to escape from it, to free our mind from restlessness and worry. Since we are caught up with restlessness and worry, we don't know what's good for us, what's good for others, or what's good for everyone. Now look at restlessness and worry, the Pali word uddacha kukucha. Kukucha is worry. Uddacha is very interesting. Uddacha, restlessness, is also one of the fetters. Only the Arhat can overcome uddacha, restlessness. It's a mental restlessness in this case. It's got to be a worry also if it is used alone. If you say uddacha only, even non-returners have uddacha. Only the Arhat does not. Why does a non-returner have uddacha? The non-returner is a very good person. He's very concerned about you. He says, how come this person doesn't know the suttas? When is he going to meditate? Why don't they know if they don't hit the path this life, they'll be reborn in a lower state? So they have all these thoughts. See? You can say thoughts of compassion if you like. So they have this kind of worry. But at that level, they don't realize is even if you have that worry, it won't help those people, you see. So only the Arhat is very calm, The Arhat is very peaceful. Equanimity is very strong, the Arhat. Okay? We can try to be equanimous, but for a moment we can, but not too long, okay? Because we're still not that strong like the Arhat, but it's possible to practice it. So here you have restlessness and worry. What is the comparison? 7.2. Brahmin, just as where a person with good sight looking for the reflection of his own face in a bowl of water, stirred by the wind, trembling, swirling, rippling, would neither know nor see it as it really is, right? Very imaginative, very beautiful. No? So this time the water is there, but it's this wind, it's coming, and it's like you go to the sea, you find there's a storm. Wow, these waves are really very strong, very high. If there's a typhoon, it's worse. No? So when this happens, we are really lost, and we don't know all the three purities are gone. We do not know what's good for ourselves, good for others, good for everyone. Now in meditation, in practical meditation, restlessness and worry happens in this way. Restlessness is when you think of what you want to do next. Instead of meditating, you're saying, okay, when I finish my meditation, what shall I do? Oh, I think I want to go and visit my friend. And actually, once you want to get up and walk, see? Right? So you become restless and you think of the future when you think of what you're going to do. Right? So, what about worry? You think of the past. You say, oh dear, I've done this, Now, I see, I didn't keep my precepts. So, dear, I broke this precept, broke that. So, that's worry, you see. So, that's why we need to hear sutta, and that's why the retreat teacher will tell you inspiring stories, right? Make you happy. Don't think about all these things. All right? So, the idea is to let go of the past, let go of the future. Let go of the past, no worry. Let go of the future, no restlessness. Like that. Right? What about sloth and torpor? Well, notice you go for retreats, you normally take one main meal a day. Yeah? And then you can take a little bit just to cool your hunger at other times. Or maybe you don't take any food outside during the wrong hours. Right? So this to help you become light in your body, you're less sleepy and so on, right? So that's one way. Watch your diet. Again, you don't starve yourself until you're sick, So middle way. And then knowing what to do at the right time. You sit too long, you're going to feel tired, your body's going to ache. Normally 1 hour is the longest a normal good meditator can last normally, but sometimes if you get into deep, into joyful states, you can sit for many hours. But usually 1 hour, 45 minutes maybe is a good long time. Then you get up, you do walking meditation, mindful walking, and then sit down again another 45 minutes or 1 hour like that. So you alternate this, then you overcome sloth and torpor. The Buddha gave 8 methods of overcoming sleepiness in the Sutta Moggallana. We'll do that another time. There are methods like, for example, washing your face, simple thing like washing your face. When doing walking meditation also is one of them. What's interesting is the last advice. You see, because that sutta, there are 8 methods of overcoming sleepiness, but the sutta is recorded in the book of 7s, not book of 8s, you see. Because advice number 8 is a very compassionate one. The Buddha said, when you try all the other 7, doesn't work, go and rest, go to sleep. Don't fight it, because you need rest. You're overdoing it, it won't work, right? So Buddha was very.
We try to drink coffee.
Talking about that, they had no coffee in China. They had tea. Remember? So there was this legend how tea began with this legendary figure of Bodhidharma. I don't think this is a historical story, but it is a legend. It's a very interesting legend.
Does the
about
person exist? Or it's only really legend?
I don't know whether he exists or not. As I said, it could be just a legend, but a legend have a lesson for us. See, in a way, legends are more useful to us than real life stories, because legend actually is teaching us something. Right? So this story is teaching us how to keep awake. So the story goes that Bodhidharma is a very strict meditator, right? So he tried meditating Of course, we can't take things too seriously. The story goes that he sat down to meditate for 7 years. I don't think we should imagine that he went into deep meditation 7 years without getting up. What's meant by he meditated for 7 years, got up, did this, did that, and then meditated again, got up, did this, did that, meditated again like that, 7 years. So the story went that he was meditating and then he fell asleep. This is something the Buddha wouldn't advise you. So he got very upset with himself and said, how can I sleep? Right? So he tore his eyelids, no more eyelids so that he won't fall asleep. Now you and I know very well, even with the eyelids, you still fall asleep. It's a very Chinese story. The Chinese love this kind of story. For example, you have another Zen master. He keeps asking this teacher, please accept me as your pupil. The Zen master says, no, impossible, you'll never be my student, And the student keep on asking, So the teacher said, impossible, you'll never be a good student. Even if the snow turns red also, you won't be my student. He shouldn't have said that. He said, even if the snow turns red. Because this student is quite sharp or desperate. He chopped off his hand. And the snow turned red. So now the teacher has to keep his word. It's a story. Don't take it seriously, okay? We always say it's a Zen story. So the story, that means don't take it seriously as a story, but the meaning is very important. You see, the point is he didn't have to chop off his hand. He can just cut the bit that's red already, right? So they dramatize it. The idea is to dramatize it. That the Dharma has more value than the body. So you should not take it literally, remember. No? So there you are. And he became a pupil of this teacher who made a faux pas in words. He's a Zen master anyway. Okay. So we have lots of stories of meditation like that.
This Three Kingdom, this hero Zhang Fei, is supposed to sleep with his eyes closed. And this was told because an assassin wanted to kill him.
Oh, okay.
And when he saw his eye open, he's aware, but actually he was sleeping.
Reminds me of my cat. Yes, my cat also sleep one eye open. and when I move my hand, she wakes up. So there is this internal sensing that would trigger. But the cat is really sleeping, So you can see with eyes open, very interesting. Talking about eyes open, there's another story. Remember the Buddha during the 49 days? He, out of gratitude to the Bodhi tree, he stood and looked at the Bodhi tree for 7 days. Now you try keeping your eyes open, look at me just for 5 minutes. Your eyes will tear up. You have to close it. Reflex. You have to clean your eyes. It's impossible to keep your eyes open all the time like that. All right? Not healthy also. You hurt your eyes. Then I ask myself, there is always a reason why these stories are told. The Buddha looking at the Bodhi tree without the winking eye. The winking eye refers to jhana. The Buddha pictured the Bodhi tree and he stood there in meditation, looking at the Bodhi tree in his mind. In that sense, right? So we got to understand all these stories in terms of meditation. Then you begin to see the deeper meaning behind it. Right? If the storyteller tells you, "Oh, the Buddha went to deep meditation and pictured the Bodhi tree," it doesn't sound very interesting. But he says he looked at the Bodhi tree with unwinking eyes. Wow, that's interesting, right? So this is a storyteller's way of catching your attention, right?
So what about the story of the tea?
Okay, thank you for reminding me. So the Bodhidharma tore off his eyelids and he threw it onto the ground. And the story, the legend was that that's how the tree bushes grew from the eyelashes, And since then, Korean monks today, the Zen monks, drink tea to keep awake, warm tea. And that's good because when it's very cold, you need to drink something warm. That helps, right? So that's a beautiful Chinese story. Right? There are other stories I can't tell you because we won't finish. No? Another time we'll tell you. One day I'll tell the story of the Putaong. Maybe I've told you another time, right? All right. So now we come to the last one, number 5 for the moment, before the break. Is doubt, right? So how does that doubt arise? Here well, someone sits with doubt, caught up with doubt, so you start thinking what happens. Why? Because we never learn the suttas, we never get proper instructions, so we begin to doubt, have I kept the precept well or not? So this monk got to study the Vinaya properly, otherwise he start doubting when he's living alone. And then if he doesn't study the Dhamma, then he start thinking about teachings and then he's lost. Right? So doubts will arise. So when doubts arise, you don't know what's good for you, what's good for others, or what's good for everyone. What's the analogy here? 8.2. It's like this water. You try to see your face in it, you can't, because this bowl of water is turbid, agitated, muddy, left in the dark. See, it's not only muddy, you have taken it from the drain or river with mud, it is left in the dark, you see. Right, so you start to see the pot of water, and also there's no reflection there. So that's what doubt is like, right? So it's not very helpful. So when you have doubt, then you find you cannot meditate also. Now if you look at this sutta, the structure is very clear. It's very simple, very systematic. First part is on why we forget. Then section B is how we can recall what we have learned, how to have a good memory. And then section C is about the 7 awakening factors, how to improve your meditation. Okay, so we'll be doing the last 2 parts. B, how or why one can recall the mantras. So basically the structure is just the opposite, or rather we can say the counterpart of the previous section. All right. Look at number 10. How do we overcome sensual lust? Brahmin, when one dwells with a mind not seized by sensual lust, not overcome by sensual lust, then when one understands as it really is, the escape from it, one understands and sees as it really is one's own benefit, one other's benefit, and the benefit of both. Then mantras that have not. Okay, here the refrain is different. Look at it. So too, the mantras that have not been recited over a long time come to mind, let alone those that have been recited. All right. So this is different from the earlier series. Notice. So this one is you will quickly learn through good memory. So here the teaching is, if you overcome sensual lust, your memory will improve. So you got to ask yourself, what is troubling me now? It's one of the 5 hindrances. This is how you investigate during your meditation. Identify the hindrance and then deal with it. Now the analogy is basically the opposite of the previous one. Right? The previous one is the sensual lust. What is the analogy? What's the metaphor? We have this water with color in it, right? Here, the water is clear, no colors in it, so you can see your reflection very clearly. That's what happens when you overcome sensual lust. All right. So I'll simplify this one. Now, next is number 2. The mind free from ill will, without ill will, section 11. Furthermore, Brahmin, when one dwells with a mind not seized by ill will, not overcome by ill will, then one understands as it really is the escape from it. Right? So when your mind is, you free your mind from ill will, you let go. After that, you know what to do. Then you will understand that your own benefit of others and benefit of everyone else. And the comparison here is water that is not boiling, normal. So basically it's the same water as the previous one. This water is clean, good water and calm, right? No ripples. So you look at it, you can see your reflection. Then next, number 3, without sloth and torpor. Here again, when you overcome sloth and torpor, sleepiness and so on by doing different methods, you know what is good for you, good for others, and good for everyone, and that way you can overcome sloth and torpor and continue with your meditation. The analogy here is again similar. It's water, the opposite of the previous section. This water is free from any kind of plants in it, any kind of, today we will say any kind of, what do you call that, all the debris and plastic bottles and so on. And it's clean, clear water, very calm, very still. Then that's the meaning of no sloth and torpor. The fourth one, without restlessness and worry. Here the mind has overcome restlessness and worry. Then you feel what is good for you know what's good for yourself, good for others, and good for everyone, and you can go on with your meditation happily. This is like you look into this water, and it is not boiling. I mean, it's not, the wind is not blowing over it. It's not turbid. It's not disturbed. It's very still, very calm. So it's the same as the previous analogies here. Analogy 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, they're the same. It's this clear, calm water. You can see your reflection in it. Okay, seeing your reflection refers to seeing the nimitta in your meditation, seeing the bright light. That is your breath. No? Now the last one is different. Number 5, without doubt. 15, Brahmin, when one dwells with a mind not seized by doubt, not overcome by doubt, then one understands it as really is the escape from it. Then you know the 3 benefits. The analogy is slightly different. The analogy in this case is this bowl of water is very clear. It's described very beautifully. 14.2 underlined words. No? It is a bowl of water, clear, settled. Settled means what? All the dirt, all the mud have settled. Limpid, very clear. Left in the light, right? So it's not in the dark, but it's left in the light. So everything is so clear you can see it. So this is where doubt is overcome. So there you are. Those are the 5 hindrances. And when you have overcome all these 5 hindrances, that means your meditation will progress very well. In fact, technically, if all the 5 hindrances have been overcome, you have attained nirvana, attained dhyana, very deep meditation. Yeah? At least some joy, basically. Okay, you feel sense of peace, joy. Right? On the other hand, if you want to improve better without waiting, then you learn what are the 7 factors of awakening and how to practice them. So this is the closing part of the sutta. The 7 awakening factors. Section 16. Okay, the first word should be changed to Brahmin. Brahmin, the 7 awakening factors are not obstructions, not hindrances, not corruptions of the mind. When cultivated and often developed, they lead to the realization of the fruit of true knowledge and freedom. Okay? Freedom is nirvana, right? Or at least temporarily the mind is free from suffering. So you got the 5 mental hindrances, the opposite are the 7 awakening factors. The 5 hindrances hinder your meditation. The 7 awakening factors, they are factors that lead you to the path of awakening. Okay, what are the 7? You can see the underlined brackets. 1 is, what is it? Mindfulness. Number 2 is Dhamma investigation. Number 3 is energy. Number 4, zest or joy. Number 5, tranquility, inner peace. Number 6, concentration, samadhi. 7 is equanimity, inner stillness. All right, so let's go back to brackets 1. The awakening factor of mindfulness is not an obstruction, not a hindrance, not a corruption of the mind. When cultivated and often developed, it leads to the realization of the fruit of true knowledge. True knowledge, that means you see impermanence, you see true reality, and that brings you freedom from all the hindrances, various defilements that hold you back, bring suffering. You're free from that. So everything repeats itself, right? So I will explain the 7 awakening factors. Number 1, mindfulness. The Pali word is on the right side. Sati Sambojjhanga. Now, when the name has a set, the word is shortened, is Bojjhanga. Satta Bojjhanga. The 7 awakening factors. Awakening factors. Bodhi. The Bojjhanga comes from Bodhi plus Anga. You see the combination clearer in Sanskrit. In Sanskrit, it's pronounced as Bodhyanga. Bodhyanga, Bodhi Anga. But in Pali, because Dhya is kind of a bit tricky, complicated, so they simplify it to J. Okay, Bojjhanga. All right. So Sati Sambojjhanga. So here, when it becomes a compound, they put some in front. Some in English is con. That means kind of concentrating, putting together, combining. Sati Sambojjhanga, the awakening factor of mindfulness, or the awakening factor that is mindfulness. So we start with mindfulness. When we meditate, we direct our mind to one object. That's mindfulness. Number 2, we practice Dhamma Vichaya. Vichaya means investigation, examination. For example, when any hindrance arises, we investigate what's going on here. Oh, this is whatever, sensual lust, anger, hatred, sleepiness, whatever. You identify it. You investigate. Or you can see it's impermanent. It rises, it falls, rises, falls. So there are different ways of doing it. The most important of the 7, you start with mindfulness, yes, but the most important one is this one, Dhamma Vichaya, because in this category also comes the moment of awakening. Okay, the realization comes in this category. So you examine what's going on in your mind, apply the Four Noble Truths, accept the mind as it is. This is a sleepy mind. Okay, First Noble Truth. What brought this sleepiness? Or I ate too much earlier on, so I got to eat less, and so on. All right. So then after that you put in effort. Number 3, virya sambojjhanga, effort. Okay. Notice the word virya. You have the word. It starts from the word vira. It comes from the word vira, meaning hero. Okay. So to make an effort makes you a hero. Okay, makes you courageous, strong. Number 4 is the awakening factor of zest. What's the Pali word? Piti. Piti, or in Sanskrit is priti. Okay. In fact, the last time I went to see my eye doctor, there was this Indian lady doctor. Her name is Dr. Preeti. Okay, so it's a nice name for Indian girl. But it doesn't mean beautiful here, it means joyful. Preeti. Pali is Piti. Piti is a very strong sense of joy when you meditate. It's exuberant. Right? So this is the first arising of joy, which helps you in your meditation. But then you got to calm it down, you got to pacify it, because if it is still exuberant, then you might feel like dancing. It's not very helpful after that. So here you got to calm it down, right? So it's called pasadi. Pasadi is the calming down. The joy comes down, your whole body feels very comfortable, so comfortable you don't feel it and you don't feel any pain. Pasadi, the body and mind are peaceful at rest. And when the body and mind are peaceful at rest, samadhi arises. Mental concentration arises. Okay, it's like when before sunrise, very peaceful, right? Then the sun rises. That is samadhi. One-pointedness of the mind. The mind and the object, in a sense, become one. There's no mind, no object anymore, in that sense. No? And then there is mental stillness, that's upekkha, that's the last one, mental stillness. You can, jhana is included here, you feel very peaceful, you feel good. So sometimes, even as you don't attain jhana in your normal meditation, you come out, you feel very calm. That's kind of upekkha. A simple level of upekkha, but that helps too. Right, so the teaching ends here for this Sangharawa is very happy. So now we have the rare moment when the sutta narrator cuts in. Section 18, the sutta narrator says, when this was said, the Brahmin Sangharawa said this to the Blessed One. Now the Brahmin speaks. No? Excellent Master Gotama, excellent Master Gotama. Just as if Master Gotama, one word to place upright what had been overturned, right? So set things right. The Buddha has answered all the things to set things right for Sangharawa. Were to reveal what was hidden, the Buddha showed some things which Sangharawa did not know before. Were to show the way to one who was lost, right? So Sangharawa started off very confused, very lost. Now he knows the way of the mind. Were to hold up a lamp in the dark so that those with eyes could see forms, right? So in other words, things become clearer, see true reality, see the nature of the mind. In the same way, in numerous ways. Why numerous ways? The Buddha gave many analogies and teachings. In the same way, in numerous ways, the Dharma has been made clear by Master Gotama. I go to Master Gotama for refuge, to the Dharma, and to the community of monks. May the Master Gotama remember me as a lay follower who has gone to him for refuge from this day forth for life. Okay? So because he's understood, so he's very happy. He says, now I'm your follower. Okay? So this is the Nivarana Sangharawa Sutta. Any questions?
These 7 awakening factors, are they the same as the 37 rings to enlightenment?
Oh, it's part of it. It's part of it.
It's part of it.
37, you have the last eightfold path. It's got sets of 7. There are seven teachings there. There is a whole article on the awakening factors that you can download from the website and read that. Yes. If you not, you can email us. Any other question?
This 7 awakening factors after the clearing free from the 5 hindrances.
In the sutta, it is given that way, yes. But you can also, if you can take the 7 awakening factors as a teaching by itself. In that case, then mindfulness will deal with the hindrances. Here, the Buddha is making it clearer, step by step. So the teaching are very flexible in that sense. Yeah. And then again, you have what called the 7 sets, right? So the 7 awakening factors is one of them. You have eightfold path, right? So Four Noble Truths and so on. So you can use any of these 7 sets of teachings for your practice depending on your inclination. Okay? Oh yes, there is the appendix, 12a. This is taken from the commentary on the Asapura Sutta. This one you can read for yourself. This explains the 5 hindrances in more detail. Okay? Lustful desires and so on. So this only 2 pages. You can read up on your own. Yeah? Anything else? We stop at 9:30. It's just nice,
The limbs of awakening, SD volume 10. The whole volume is on the factors of awakening.
Right. SD10 is on the awakening factors. All the 7 sets are given there in detail. Okay? SD10, very easy to remember. Of course, you want the latest one, email us, we send to your latest volume, what we have. Yeah? Okay, let us close with another important meditation. I mean, loving kindness, rather. We send our loving kindness to this Master We Reha. No? Okay, are you all ready? Right, once again, we have completed this study on the 5 mental hindrances, the Nivarana Sangarava Sutta. We've spent some moments renouncing the world temporarily. We are gathered here to be close to the Buddha through the suttas, to look within ourselves, to understand ourselves better, to keep the precepts, to enjoy Dhamma fellowship with one another. All these are very wonderful good karma. That by the power of this good karma, may we be well and happy, at peace with ourselves. May we be blessed with the wisdom and courage to at least aspire to stream winning in this life itself. May our relatives and loved ones too be well and happy. And those who are practicing the Dhamma to attain their Dhamma goal in this life itself. And this is the moment when once again we direct all our positive energies, our loving kindness, our metta to Master We Reha, who is recovering from his illness, that he will quickly recover, fully recover, be well and happy. That his mind is at peace. That his parents too be well and happy and be strong in these difficult moments. And also let us send out our loving kindness to all those who have difficulties with the teaching, who are lost and teaching the wrong things. May they too see the true teaching of the Buddha and return to the true path in this life itself. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.